Welcome, I'm the DeadwoodJedi. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video, and this is going to be a step-by-step video where basically I have somebody, in this case it's going to be Korthos, comes to me asking for help with his account. In this case, he asked for help with his clan boss team and his dungeon teams, and I'm going to kind of walk with you guys going step-by-step on how we improve that. And so that's kind of the idea of this. Hopefully we'll get a couple of videos in on this one and kind of show you a couple of the stages, a couple of the steps I do to work on things. Now, typically, the very first thing I'm going to do when I work on an account is go through and look at the champions, look at the gear, look at the stages that we're hitting in dungeons, and look at where we're at on clan boss. You know, those are the areas we're working on. That's what I'm going to evaluate. Working on other areas, I'll evaluate that too. And then I try to put together a plan as to how to go about improving things. Typically, I start with the most important stuff. Most often, that's clan boss. That's where you get the best rewards. It's the most important part of this game. And then after that, I do the dungeons in order of most important dungeons to tackle first. So we start with Dragon. That's where you get your speed gear, and speed really helps to unlock all the other areas of this game. And then Spider, where you get your accessories, which also is really important for your champions. It's the only place to get them. And then from there, we go on to Ice Golem and Fire Knight in one order or the other. It's usually a really hard dungeon. Those are harder dungeons to tackle anyway. So we just try to, you know, take them on easiest to hardest, really. That gear is more useful for other areas of the game. We're talking about Doom Tower, Hydra, Arena. It's a little bit more advanced, so it's not usually the most important thing to get locked down right away. This account is pretty young. It's less than 100 days in, right? Day 97 right now when I'm working on it. The level, as you can see, is only 63. So we're not very far along in this. On top of that, they're only hitting hard on clan boss. The clan hasn't even unlocked Ultra Nightmare. The dungeons were at stage 16 in Dragon, 16 in Ice Golem, and stage 12 for Fire Knight and Spider. So there's obviously a lot of room to improvement, but I'm also really concerned that we won't have the gear with which to improve it. Now, I'm going to show you some of the champions here, and I have worked a little bit on this already. So already tweaked the clan boss team. I haven't done a run yet, so I'm actually really interested to see how well it does. I've already tweaked some of like the Dragon team. I did get us to level 20, but I don't want to show that in this video. But just understand there's a couple of champions that I've already, you know, moved around. Some regearing has taken place when we look at this. But these are the champions that we have on this account. As you can see, there's not a lot of legendaries, right? We've got Rhonda, we've got Ghostborn, we've got Ultan, who's, you know, not that great. And that's it for legendaries on this account. We do have some good epics, right? From Demitha to White Dryad Nia. We've got a Godseeker Neri, an Ursula the Mourner, Royal Guards here. We do have a Mordecai, a Skull Crown, even a Husk is here, and a Cold Heart. So there are definitely some champions that are available to us, but most of them are under leveled, right? We only have so many that are 60 right now, which is fine. This is normal. This is where we're supposed to be right now on this account. In fact, in a lot of ways, this is a little bit more advanced than, say, where my free-to-play would be as far as champions and the leveling process goes. But where we're under-leveled is in the gear. And this is the part where I want you guys to kind of pay attention. One of the things I always look at first, I will click speed boots. I just want to see how many we have. And as you can see, we have some, but it's not like we have a lot. So there's not a lot of options for us to get speed right off the jump. Even when we click equipped, it doesn't change it all that much. There's not all that many more that are available to us. 3 total in perception, 6 total in speed, and most of those are 4-star or less, right? So we don't have a lot of speed within this account. The next thing I look at is substat speed, because I want to know, as far as gear goes, what do we have for helmets, gloves, chest piece, weapons that have speed on them, and get an idea of that. That's going to really limit what we can put together. And as you can see, I'm going to also, I mean, truthfully, what I really look at is I look at speed, because this one is key for getting a lot faster. You can tell we don't have a lot of it. Only 2 chest pieces. One's HP percentage. That's great. One's flat HP. That's not great. We've got 4 gloves, crit damage, attack percentage, crit damage, crit rate. Three of those are 4-star. The only 5-star one's a crit damage one. That's not helpful at all for us. This is equipped, by the way. So this is all that's on this account. We have other things, right? There's some with accuracy, but obviously not a lot. We have some in perception, definitely a more significant amount, and that's really good to have, but again, not a lot. One thing we do have a lot of, though, thankfully, is bolster. And so that's going to be really, really helpful for us as far as like trying to gear out our champions and build them up. The other thing, really what I should be doing is only clicking 5 and 6-star pieces, and you can see really lowers what we have available to us in this account. But these are kind of the main sets I'm looking at. We can also look at some resilience. Those can be very good filler pieces, but they're not really essential. Immortal can be really good for us. Cruel can be good, but I don't even think the main stats on those are going to be anywhere useful for us. So we don't have a ton of stuff to work with here, and that's going to be one of our big limitations. But I think we have enough to build a solid clan boss team. Now, you might be asking, what are we looking for? What are we trying to get to? And that's an important question to ask, because we have to kind of have our goals in mind when we jump in. So honestly, because the clan is only hitting Nightmare, we can jump over there and take a look real quick. As you can see, the clan is only hitting Nightmare and only a couple people. They're not really even taking down Brutal, but they're focusing on Hard here. We can obviously work on this and help build up the Hard team. That shouldn't be an issue. But truthfully, to take down Hard, all you really need is the semblance of a clan boss team. The semblance. Bring in decreased attack, bring in decreased defense, bring in poisons. It's really enough. Have 5 champions at level 60 with masteries. That's all you need. That's really all you need, because the threshold for the top chest is very low. It's only 11 million damage. So you can do that with very few champions. In fact, I bet we could do that just with our Rhonda, our White Dryad Nia, and our Demitha when they're fully built out. Probably could do it just with them. But obviously we want to improve things. So we're looking Brutal. Again, 5 champions, the semblance of a clan boss team. Should be able to 2-key this pretty easy, 22 million, right? And Nightmare is where it gets a little bit harder, right? The threshold is about 40 million just underneath. And so to 2-key it, you need 20 million damage per run. That's kind of what we're aiming for right now. And I'd like to make it a team that can be upgraded fairly easily, right? Without having to do a full rebuild. The truth is, though, where this account is right now, that this team will probably have to be remade for a good Ultra Nightmare team. But I want it at least where he can build it up. And then when he decides to do Ultra Nightmare, he can test and kind of inch his way forward in that to like a 4-key, maybe even a 3-key potentially, before he actually tries to rebuild a better team. With the champions he has, eventually he'll be able to make an unkillable team. We're just not there right now. So what have I built? What have I built? Why have I built it? What I built him is this team right here. And I think this is going to be a pretty decent squad for him. We are using Demitha to block one of the attacks. But just as importantly, we're using Demitha to also extend the ally protection from White Dryad Nia. And so we're going to be able to protect ourselves basically for protect ourselves for the stun and for one of the AoEs. And then we're going to have White Dryad Nia cleanse the stun off of for us. We're going to have Weiren, who I think is actually a really good champion, brings decreased defense for us, brings weaken for us, brings poisons for us. And so with her, we're going to be able to get a lot of our damage. Now, it's not going to be a lot of raw damage, not built to hit hard. I barely have her built enough to do any damage as it is. We just don't have the gear. I don't even have her fully ascended right now. But I have her built well enough for the time being, I think. We have Farrakhan the Fat, who's going to give us ally attack, and we all know how strong that is. Also going to be our stun target most of the time, and he's an ideal one because he can help dissipate that damage with his passive. He also brings some debuffs, like poisons and HP burn. He also brings a decreased defense on his A1. It's not consistent, though, and that's why we have to bring in somebody else like Suiren to help us with that. And then last, we have Lightsworn. Now, I had to rank up Lightsworn and Suiren. I don't know that I love the Lightsworn part of this, but Lightsworn does have a triple hitter on his A1, which allows us to use Giant Slayer, which is very nice. He has a decreased attack on that A2, and that's going to be really key for us to help stay alive for the one AoE we are taking. And so I thought Lightsworn would be a good option. There is a Padma on this account. Maybe that would have been a better choice and a better way to go. But I went with what I knew, and that's Lightsworn. I think he provides more utility in other areas of the game. So that's the team that we're using here. And I think it should work pretty nice. Now, it's not technically affinity friendly. We're not blocking the debuffs, but I think we can deal with it with some subtle changes. And it might not be 100%, to be fair, but I think we'll be okay. The Mytha here I have at 172 speed. If we can get the Mytha up to 178 speed or 177 speed, I'm pretty sure that even with the decreased speed debuff, everybody will still stay in sync because we're timing our A2 to happen right before the stun. And this A2 will reduce the duration of all allied debuffs by 1 turn. Because she goes last in the turn order, that means after her turn, we won't have any more decreased speed. So we really just have to sustain it for 1 attack. I think we can do that. So I have everybody else at 178 speed, and I have White Dryad Nia at 179 speed. Can't go faster than that, or that again will throw things off when we try to do this on not just Nightmare, but Brutal clan boss difficulty as well, because the speeds drop. So there's a real tight window here because of the speeds and because we're trying to do this on multiple difficulties. And so that's the idea. That's the idea behind making this work. Now, we're kind of low on glyphs, so I didn't glyph the Mytha up all the way yet. I'm not sure that I can, but that's kind of the goal. In fact, actually, you know what? We might have enough glyphs to do that. So let's see if I can't make that happen here. It's going to be a little tricky, but we're going to try it. So I think we have 1 5-star. Yes, we do. And we're at 172. Just need to be a little bit faster. In fact, I don't know that I need to use that. I think we have a few things with speed. We do. So we're going to go ahead and try and make this happen here. Use a 3-star on this. 3 more speed. Great. We're at 175 speed. We just need 2 more speed here. And this is with the increased speed, or the speed set, by the way. It is factored in. Great. 177 speed. Okay, perfect. So now, hopefully everything will work perfectly. I need a manual 1 attack here from White Dryad Nia, but otherwise it should work. So that's the team. Let's see if we can't make this work. And if we can, then I'll show you the gear right afterwards. Okay, so go in. I do have it set up to work on auto. Basically, this first AoE, White Dryad Nia should be able to deal with. Now, right here, right at the start of the second turn, I want to A1 with White Dryad Nia. Boom. And then the Mytha is going to block all the damage. That's the important part here. So on the second AoE, we're taking 0 damage. Then for the stun, since it's just a single target hit, the ally protection should come out from White Dryad Nia, protecting, in this case, Farrakhan the Fat, who should be the target, protecting Farrakhan the Fat. And then at the start of the next turn, White Dryad Nia is going to cleanse that stun, and everybody's going to go. And it should be great because we'll ally protect for the second one. It's extended, remember, by the Mytha. And so it should work just fine. And we're healing enough in between that by the time the stun comes around, everybody's full health. That means the only person taking any damage is Farrakhan the Fat, is a stun target, which means they will be the target of the cleanse and heal from White Dryad Nia, resetting those skills. Which means, especially for Farrakhan the Fat, we're going to get more ally attacks in, which is good for us. That's kind of what we want. And it can make him a considerably stronger champion for us. Look at the debuff bar. We have decreased defense, weaken, HP burn, poisons up. Sui Ren is really, really good. Never used her before, but she's really, really good for this, placing all the debuffs that we need for our team. Now, one of the reasons why I have White Dryad Nia going fastest at 179 is so that she can cleanse that stun. I could have her going really slow too. Doesn't really matter as long as she's faster than the Mytha, but I like having her go first and cleansing that stun. That allows Farrakhan to get more attacks in and our team to do a lot more damage. And as you can see, we're doing about 500,000 damage per turn, which is a pretty good amount. If we can survive 40-ish turns, we will then have our 2-key team. 40-ish turns is a long time, but remember, we're blocking all the damage from 1 hit, ally protected for both of the other hits. We should have a pretty decent shot at actually lasting a fairly long time here. Now, this might end up being a 3-key team. That's a very realistic thing right now, but when we get better gear, when we level these champions up, a 2 key should be actually pretty easy for this team to do. We just have to survive that one AoE hit and that one stun. With the strengthen buff, with the ally protection, the stun shouldn't be an issue, especially with rocking the fat there. The ally attack, the AoE attack, excuse me, is a little trickier, but again, something that's doable. We can also replace Lightsworn. We don't need Lightsworn. What we need is decreased attack. So if we can find someone with decreased attack and increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown, that makes that a lot better build, right? And makes it much more viable for us. Or we can, get another champion instead of Nia. We don't necessarily have to cleanse the stun. I like her for this, but she's not the only one we could use for this. So it's also really possible that we could bring in somebody else to do that ally protection ability, or we don't have to have ally protection at all. We could bring in someone just to give us increased defense in that spot. There are a lot of possibilities for this, but basically what we're trying to do is maximize what the Mytha does here, which is block damage. And we're just trying to time it so it gives us the best bang for our buck. It's turn 23. We're still going pretty strong, but you're going to see the stun is hardly affecting Farrakhan, but it's the AoEs, particularly with Suiren. He has really low defense. It's under 2,000 right now, really low HP, under 24k or under 25k. So she actually takes a fair amount of damage through this. One of our objectives would be to build her defense up considerably more, to build her HP up considerably more, and make it so that she can survive these hits a lot better. You'll also notice there's some small poisons. We do have Toxic set on Lightsworn just to add a little bit extra damage. This was when I was going to use Rhonda instead of Suiren. When I made that change, Toxic probably isn't as necessary. Now, again, I think I said this before, Rhonda might do more damage for us, but I have her in a Relentless set right now, which is ridiculous and really cool. But it also means that she won't fit into the speed tune as well. She might outrun the ally protection buff. So you might have a higher damage potential early, but we won't last nearly as long. And as you can see, we've lasted already 30 turns, which is pretty considerable considering the champions we have and the gear we have on them. So I look to see this team definitely improve very easily. If we can get everybody's defense to about the same level as we lose Suiren right there, get everybody's defense to that 2,500, 3,000 mark, right? As we continue to improve that, everybody's going to survive a lot longer. We'll be able to put up more damage, and that 2 key should be pretty easy to achieve. As it is, even losing Suiren, we're not going to fall out of sync because of the speeds that we're using on this team. So we can continue to fight, continue to get our damage in as we go. It won't be as prolific, it won't be as effective, but it still will be effective, and we might eventually get that 2 key damage. So that's what we're kind of hoping for here. So let's see how much longer we can survive with this team. Not too bad. We got the 2 key, 24 million damage. I thought was a really good result. Obviously, you saw how early Suiren went down and our damage kind of tanked after that. If we can keep her alive, man, this is a pretty awesome team. I mean, this is basically an unkillable team. We lasted over 50 turns. I don't know how we lasted 51 turns, but we did. And so you can see there's a lot of potential. Basically, just with the Mytha, just by blocking that one attack from the boss, able to survive a very, very long time, which is pretty remarkable, I'd say. So, I really like this team. I think there's I think it's a pretty solid little squad, right? It's nothing game changing, right? But it's also obviously very, very good. Now, we could definitely improve this if we had somebody that could bring in decreased attack in a different form. So like if we had a Thane on this team, that could actually be really interesting, where we utilize her decreased attack. And then she's also bringing in things like decreased defense and poisons and stuff, and actually replace somebody like Suiren with her. And then we can bring in somebody else to maybe help us survive a little longer. Someone that brings increased defense, or just utilize her instead of Lightsworn, and she becomes a decreased attack. Now we have 3 damage dealers instead of just 2. There's a lot of flexibility as far as like how you would build this team, because really the only ones that you really need for support are Nia and Demitha, and then you just need the appropriate debuffs, including decreased attack, which is really vital. But pretty darn good, I would say. Let me show you guys what this looks like in the calculator, so you have an understanding of like how this works and why it works. So as you guys can see here on the calculator, this team works right from the very start. We're faster than the clan boss on nightmare difficulty, and so everything stays in sync for the entirety of the fight. Basically, we can see the order we have. White Dryad Nia is going first. Baraki, Suiren, and Lightsworn in some order. It doesn't really matter which. They're all going to go next, and then Demitha's going to go last. White Dryad Nia basically is just going to start with the A2, just so we make sure we have the timing on it right. We could A1, but it doesn't hurt us to open with that. Doesn't matter who she uses it on. Doesn't matter, right? Because it's right at the beginning, so our presets are still locked in. I'm opening with Demitha's A1, and then we're going into the block damage for that second AoE, so we block all that damage from the boss, and then the third one, we're actually extending buffs and healing up right before the stun. Now, also on that, before the stun, White Dryad Nia is going to be using her A3, the ally protection. And because we extended immediately after, we're going to be ally protected not just for the stun, but also for that first AoE. And because of that, we become really tanky, and we can survive a heck of a lot longer than we would normally. Then it all starts itself over again, right? And obviously Nia, like I said before, is going to cleanse at the very top whoever takes that stun. That's obviously a big and important thing. And part of what makes that work is that we're getting so much healing in between. Demitha's placing continuous heals on everybody. We're also getting a big heal from Demitha's A2 skill, right? And then on top of that, White Dryad Nia heals everybody when she heals, and she's in a bolster set, which means that she's automatically healing everybody when she takes her turn anyway. So basically, there's enough healing to make sure that everybody's full health when the clan boss tries to stun everybody, and that allows it to really guide who gets the cleanse. Now, what happens if we face an affinity boss, right? Well, because Suiren's red affinity, that means anytime the boss is green, Suiren will be the target. And if the boss is red, then Suiren, I think if the boss is red, Suiren will also be the target. If the boss is blue, Baraki will be the target. So even if the target is Suiren, we're just going to have a different champion get a reset of their cooldown. So we won't have as many ally attacks from Farrak in the bat, but we're still going to get enough attacks in there. And Suiren will just be able to utilize her skills in the same order like she would normally. So it's not as good against Affinity, but it's effective all the same. And you can see here, when Demitha does her A2, that's going to actually reduce all the debuffs down. So it's going to take them all away. And so it should, I haven't tested it, but it should work on Spirit Affinity as well as any of the other affinities that we go against. I haven't tried it though, so don't hold me to it if it doesn't work. All right, let's briefly look at the champions and how I built them to get an understanding of that. We've got Demitha here. Got her, like I said, 177 speed. You saw me rank her up for that. She is in a bolster set, and this is mostly for other content, right? I want her to be able to heal up constantly. I want her to be able to keep everybody alive. We could bring her into arena if we wanted to, and have her be very functional in a variety of areas of this game. I'm not focused on her crit rate. I'm not focused on her damage. All I care about is her surviving, because she's going to help keep everybody else alive. Masteries, I did go down the support tree just to maximize her healing, maximize that shield. You can easily go down the defensive tree if you prefer. It doesn't really matter. I am taking oh gosh, what's that one called? Lasting Gifts, which is an important buff, right? So a couple things. I have Steadfast on her to make sure that she doesn't take the stun. I have Lasting Gifts on her, which is going to extend the duration of any of the buffs that she puts out, because none of them are going to affect the stun targeting outside of block damage, and that one's not going to get extended. It should work just fine for us. And then we have White Dryad Nia. Now, I have her in a defensive set. I could easily put her in support too. It wouldn't matter. We can extend the debuffs with her, or the buffs with her if we wanted to. They don't affect stun targeting. That's the only thing we really need to worry about when it comes to when it comes to Lasting Gifts, excuse me. But I have her in a bolster set and a mortal set. Again, I want to maximize her healing as much as we can, not only for this content, but for dungeons, for arena, for Doom Tower, everywhere else we could possibly utilize her. And so that's one of the reasons why I have her built the way I do. As much HP as I could put on her, a lot of defense. I want to get that up to 3,000. We're not there yet, but that is going to be my goal. Then we have Lightsworn. Lightsworn's in a trash build, 100% trash build. But the idea with it is I don't need him to be super tanky, and I don't really need him to do crazy damage. He doesn't hit particularly hard, but what he does do is bring triple hits on his A1 so we can get Giant Slayer out there, and that's going to be good for us. So I do try to get as much crit rate as I can on him. I do have enough accuracy to land his debuffs on Nightmare at 175, and I have him in a Toxic set to help give us a little bit extra damage along the way as well. If I didn't go Toxic, I could obviously build him a little bit better, but this is going to work for where we're at right now. And obviously it lends itself to improvement going forward by building more crit rate, building more defense so we get more damage out of him, and building more crit damage on him as well as accuracy for Ultra Nightmare. And then there's Farrak in the Fat. I have pretty much all my DPS going on the defensive tree just so they can survive a little bit longer. With him, we got same 178 speed, again 186 accuracy. When we hit Ultra Nightmare, we're definitely gonna have to bump that up, but right now, this should work fine. We have a trash banner on him anyway, so it shouldn't be hard to get that higher up. The big thing with him is going to be the accuracy. If I could, I would build a crit rate on him. I would build crit damage on him, but we can't really. We're a little bit stuck because of the accuracy requirement that we need, and so that became the priority. I also wanted to build his defense up. It's up to about 2,600 right now, and that's going to let us survive the stun a lot longer, 50 turns, obviously. His HP, we try to keep low again because that's going to help us survive the stun. Apparently, how I have him built now is enough to survive 50 turns on Nightmare, and that's the ideal. When we hit Ultra Nightmare or other levels, we'll probably have to bump those numbers up appropriately. And then very last, Suiren. I actually really like this champion. I thought she was really good. I would love to build her with good crit rate and good crit damage and high attack, but we definitely didn't have the gear for that. 4-star chest plate on her, not ideal. And our defense is under 2,000. We need to definitely get that up. We don't have an amulet. We don't have a banner, and our ring isn't rolled up. So there's definitely easy avenues to improve both of those, all the stats on her, honestly, because ideally what I want is I want her built with attack. I think she can do really good raw damage in addition to the debuffs. And so I'd like to build her up in order to do that. I haven't tested her, so I don't actually know, but that's my feeling on it. And even if she can't, the debuffs she's bringing are super clutch for this team, and they're good for other areas of the game. That defense break is actually an AoE ability, which is really nice for things like Dragon, right? So I really like her, definitely worth building up, and I think she kind of proved her worth here. If we can get a little bit more defense, a little bit more HP on her, she could be really nice for this going forward. And that's the team, that's the build. So the first step in our step-by-step actually was Dragon. But the second step was Clan Boss, and I thought we actually got a pretty good result considering where this account is and where we started. We built something that not only works right now, but can be improved upon to work later on. All these champions, except for really Demitha, can be substituted for champions that bring similar things. So if we get better picks along the way, we can sub some of these out. If, for example, he wanted to use Ghostborn instead of Suiren, we could do that. We just have to build him for Clan Boss as opposed to other areas of the game. And that might be a valid approach going forward. Brings an increased attack buff, hits hard, brings decreased defense. So those are kind of the things that, if this was my team, that I would be considering as we went along, as going like, okay, how do I improve this team? Well, I'm going to be looking for maybe a stronger ally protector than White Dradnia. I really like her, though. I think she's good for this. I could be looking for another block damage team when I want to hit Ultra Nightmare, and then I can combine Demitha with another block damage or unkillable champion and build an unkillable team. I'd be looking for someone better than Lightsworn as an improvement on that part. Rocking the Fat's pretty top tier, so maybe we don't really substitute anything there, but obviously there's ways we can improve this team just as it is without having to worry too much. And since it lasts almost 50 turns, this is it lasted 50 turns. It's basically an unkillable team with only Demitha. What ends up happening is White Dradnia becomes that other unkillable champion. So you can build it like an unkillable team. You just have to add a little bit of defense and a little bit of HP more than you would normally do and make it work. So overall, I really like this team. I think, this is a pretty good result considering where we started and where this account is at, and it's only going to get better. And that's the best part about it. So that's the video. That's the team. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the music. We got the SoundStripe link down below. That's all the shout outs I need to do. And I guess if you guys want account work like this, when maybe your account's low level like this, or it's more advanced, happy to help you with that. I have a team more than happy to help you with that kind of stuff. You can find it on my website, and just sign up there, and we'll get to you and start working on your team. And hopefully you'll be hitting higher levels and all the stuff that you want to be hitting higher levels at. So that's what we got for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And until next we meet, Deadwood Jedi.